Welcome to the DLA Operator Training Program, Module 6, Forklift Operation. Operating a forklift is a privilege earned and a serious responsibility. Your coworkers depend on you to use proper operating techniques and to follow all safety precautions. In this module, we will discuss the safe and proper procedures for performing daily pre-operational checks, picking up a load, traveling with a load, and setting a load down. The first and most important thing you can do to ensure your safety and that of your coworkers is to perform a thorough pre-operational check each time you use a forklift. Your daily check should include the following. Before starting the engine, check for damage and leaks. Look around the entire forklift for fluid leaks on and under the lift. Check for loose or missing parts. Is there any damage to the forklift? Pay particular attention to the condition of the forks, backrest, mast, and mast chains. Check the overhead guard and lights. Never operate the vehicle if any defects are discovered. Check the condition of the tires. Look for cuts, gouges, and embedded objects. If they are pneumatic, check the air pressure. Check the charge dial on the fire extinguisher for a full charge. If you operate a gas, diesel, or propane-powered forklift, you must check fluid levels, engine oil, hydraulic fluid, and the radiator coolant when the engine is cool. If the forklift is battery-powered, check the condition of the battery. Is it clean and the connection tight? After you mount the forklift, start the engine and check all gauges to see that they are at the proper settings. If you need to refuel, follow local procedure and remember, no smoking, flames, or sparks are permitted within 50 feet of the refueling area. Before refueling or recharging, the forklift should be unloaded, forks or attachment lowered to the ground, and the parking brake set. When refueling, the engine must be shut off. Never use an open flame, such as a match or lighter, to check gasoline or battery fluid levels. Refueling and recharging are potentially hazardous operations, so be certain to follow all safety precautions. With the power on, check the horn, lights, strobe, and turn signals. Is the engine running smooth? Test the hydraulic controls to see whether they're working okay. Check the operating condition of the clutch, service or foot brake, steering, and backup alarm. If you operate an electric lift, make sure the dead man brake is working. Be certain to follow your local procedure for operator maintenance. If defects are found, report them immediately. Operating a forklift with a known defect, like poor brakes, hydraulic oil leaks, or bent forks, is the sign of an unprofessional operator. Never attempt to make repairs yourself. In order to keep your forklift in the best operating condition, don't use reverse gear for a brake. Don't spin the wheels or race the engine. And never ride or slip the clutch. Remember to wear safety shoes and other protective equipment that's required when operating your forklift. The first rule for picking up a load is to know the load limit of your vehicle and never exceed it. Overloading a forklift will cause loss of steering control and may tip over. The load limit is shown on the data plate for each forklift, and the weight of many loads is marked on the load or on the packages on the pallet. If the load is not marked, attempt to lift the load. If it's too heavy, you will hear the engine strain or the rear wheels will lift off the ground. Since forklifts are steered by their rear wheels, an overloaded forklift will have reduced or no steering control. Never add extra weight to counterbalance an overload. Forklifts are rated according to both the weight and size of the load. For example, a forklift may be rated for a 4,000-pound load limit with a 24-inch load center. This means that in order to lift the full rated capacity of 4,000 pounds, the center of the load's weight cannot be further than 24 inches from the heel of the forks. So, if the weight is evenly distributed on the pallet, the maximum length of the load is 48 inches. This is the standard size of most pallets. You can move loads that are longer than the recommended load center, but the weight of the load must be decreased, sometimes by as much as half. Just like a seesaw, if a child moves out further away from the balance point, the seesaw will be out of balance. A load that is too long will have the same effect and put the forklift out of balance. Reducing the weight of the load will correct the problem. Did you know that fork extensions and other attachments can also reduce the load capacity? Make sure you adjust your operating techniques when using a forklift with an attachment. Alterations may not be made to a forklift without proper written authorization from DLA headquarters. So, you've checked the weight and size of the load. You're ready to pick it up, right? Wrong. Before you pick up any load, it's just as important to check the load for stability. Is the load properly stacked and secured so that no part can fall or roll off? Is the pallet in good shape? Never pick up a load that is unstable. If possible, restack the load or wrap it to make it stable. If you have to dismount your vehicle, you must ground the forks, neutralize the controls, and set the parking brake. If you go out of sight of your forklift or more than 25 feet away, then you must also shut off the engine. So next time, before you pick up a load, ask yourself, is the weight of the load within the rated capacity? Is the load center within recommended limits? Is the load balanced and stable? Before traveling with the load, check the surrounding area for trash or other hazards that might interfere with the safe operation of your equipment or cause the load to topple. When you are sure the load is safe and the area is clear, pick up the load and remember these safety factors. When inserting the forks, make sure the forks are set as wide as possible to support the load, evenly spaced from the center of the mast, and level. If you need to hand adjust the forks, be careful not to trap or pinch your hands or feet. Place the pallet as far back on the forks as possible without damaging the load behind it. Before moving, raise the load slightly and tilt the mast back to stabilize the load. Always make slow and smooth motions. Fast, jerky movements run the risk of toppling the load and injuring coworkers. Never try to adjust any part of the load by putting your arms, head, hands, or legs through the mast. Never let anyone stand or walk next to or under the forks or attachment. Ask people to move out of the way or wait for them to clear the area. When traveling with a load, let's consider one more stability factor. Unlike your car that has a low center of gravity and uses shocks and 4 tires to keep it balanced, a forklift has a high center of gravity, no shocks, and only a 3-point suspension system. As a result, the stability of the lift and its load depend on how you operate the forklift. The forklift is the most stable when the combined center of weight of both load and forklift is kept close to the front axle. When the center of weight is thrown off by sharp turns or jerky motion, the forklift can tip over. So the safest way to travel with a load is to keep the load tilted slightly back and the forks low, between 4 to 6 inches off the ground. Keep your movements slow and smooth. Drive carefully over bumps, rough floors, and railroad tracks. When you cross railroad tracks, do so slowly and at an angle in order to keep the load as stable as possible. Cross only at approved crossings. Never raise, lower, or tilt the load while traveling. A truck traveling with the load raised is very unstable. If you find that the load blocks the view in front of you while it's in the traveling position, you are required to drive in reverse and always look in the direction of travel. Never travel blind. It's a serious hazard to coworkers as well as yourself. When traveling with a load, observe all local traffic regulations. Many accidents are caused by operators using excessive speed, so observe the speed limits and operate only as fast as conditions permit. Slow down on rough, wet, or slippery surfaces, as well as in high traffic areas. Report all oil slicks. Don't drive through them. Avoid running over loose materials. Be aware of changing conditions, like driving from bright sunlight into a dimly lit warehouse. Give your eyes some time to adjust. If you have to drive in rain or snow, adjust your speed for the wet or icy surface. Don't try to drive faster to get out of the weather. Always work at a safe distance from other vehicles and travel approximately 3 truck lengths behind another vehicle. One of the most common causes of forklift accidents is the operator who doesn't stay on constant alert to the surroundings. Always keep a sharp eye out for people, pallets, other traffic, and obstacles on the floor and overhead. A professional driver expects the unexpected and is prepared for it. Stop and sound your horn at exits and entrances and when approaching a place where your vision is limited or blocked. Also, you are required to slow down and sound your horn when approaching other stopped vehicles, when exiting aisles, when backing, or when people may not be able to hear the forklift coming. Check for overhead obstacles when you're raising the mast, like lights, sprinklers, doorways, and pipes. Your mast should have a safe distance from all overhead obstacles. Since the rear wheels steer the forklift, both ends swing wide on turns. To make a safe turn in a narrow aisle, stay as close as possible to the stacks on the side toward which you'll make your turn. When your front wheels reach the point where you want to turn, begin turning the wheel slowly and smoothly. The back end of the truck will swing out across the aisle. Also watch the rear swing when people are in the area. If you're driving into a truck or trailer, here are some important safety factors to remember. Make sure the wheels are chocked and the brakes or jack stands set before entering. Check to make sure the dock board is securely locked in place and don't exceed the load limit of the dock board. Inspect the floor of the trailer and make sure it is safe. Ask the truck driver if the floor is forklift rated. When driving over the dock board, drive slowly and don't accelerate. This could force the plate to slip out of position. When raising the load, watch your overhead clearance. Failure to do any one of these things could result in a deadly accident. Driving on an incline presents its own set of safety precautions. On a ramp or incline, always travel straight up or down, never on an angle. Don't turn until the forklift is on a level surface. A loaded forklift must drive with the load pointed uphill and raise the forks just high enough to avoid jamming the forks into the ramp. Keep a safe distance from ledges, like on elevated ramps, platforms, or the flatbed of a highway truck. And remember, the rear end swings out. Don't let it swing out over the edge. In the event of a fall, stay in the forklift and hold on. When you're setting the load down, make sure all coworkers are out of the area where the load could fall. As you approach the stack, stop, raise the load, and move in slowly. Only when the load is on the floor or over the stack are you permitted to tilt the load forward. Back the forks out carefully, stop, then lower the forks. When you're finished with a forklift, park it only in an approved location. Never park in a traffic area, in a doorway or aisle, or closer than 8 feet to a railroad track. Before leaving the vehicle, follow local procedure for proper shutdown and be sure to tilt the forks until they are level and lower them to the ground. Put all controls in neutral, set the parking brake, and turn off the engine. These are not just rules. They are what all professional operators should do to avoid injury to themselves and their coworkers. Remember, you can be held financially responsible for government property that is damaged or destroyed as the result of your negligence. In addition to safe operating procedures, there are some very clear-cut rules on what you are prohibited to do with your forklift. Stunt driving and horseplay are strictly prohibited. Never take on a rider. One quick jerk and the rider could fall off. Never use a forklift to run errands that do not involve load transport. And never push or pull a load or piece of machinery. The rewards of safe and proper operation of a forklift are a job well done, increased productivity, reduced damage, job security, and a safe working environment that protects the health and well-being of all employees. This concludes the video portion of Forklift Operation.